Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm excited to be bringing you another requested video, and today we're going to be talking about two things. One, how to determine what your skin tone, your skin undertone is, and secondly, how to pair eyeshadow colors in a palette together. Now you might think those two subjects are completely opposite, and what does one have to do with the other? Well, you're going to be surprised how much they relate to one another. So let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, what is your skin's undertone? Why is that important to know? Well, it plays into not only how you choose your correct foundation color, but it also, surprisingly, will play into how you choose what blushes and eyeshadows and lipsticks and all of that look better. Now, that doesn't mean that just because you're one undertone that you can't wear certain other colors, but it is going to help you determine what colors are actually going to work better and look a little more seamless than others. So how do you determine what is your skin undertone? Well, there are basically three undertones. There's three options. So one is yellow undertone, the second is neutral, and the third is cool undertone. So how do you determine which one you are? Well, first of all, you want to look at the veins on your wrist. When you look at them, if the veins look blue or purplish, that means you have a cool undertone. If you look at them and they look green, then that means you have a yellow undertone. If you look at your wrist and you see both colors there, blue and green veins, that means you are neutral. Now the second way, and these aren't the only two ways, but these are the most popular. So the second way to determine is by what color of jewelry looks better on you. So if you are a cool undertone, that typically means that silver jewelry is going to look better on you. If you're a yellow undertone, typically gold is going to look better. And if you're neutral, it means that you can wear both interchangeably. Now, having said that, I am more of a yellow undertone. However, you'll notice I'm wearing silver. My wedding ring is silver, and that is just because that is my preference. And in the summertime, when my skin has more color, I feel like the silver jewelry looks better on me. So that is true also of those of you who have cooler skin tones. If you like to wear gold, you will notice that the gold is going to pop a little more if you've got a little sunless tanner on, or if you've spent a little time out in the sun, that gold is going to look a little bit better on you. So having said all of that, now that we've determined what your skin undertone is, why does that make a difference when it comes to selecting, in particular, eyeshadow colors from an eyeshadow palette? If you have cooler undertones, naturally cool eyeshadows that have a cool base to them are going to actually look a little bit more natural on you versus those of us with yellow undertones. We can pull off those really warm palettes much easier because they look a little bit more natural. They blend a little bit easier into our natural undertone. Now that does not mean that if you're one, you can't wear the other. So now, having that in the back of our mind, let's go to how do you choose what colors to pair together in an eyeshadow palette. Now, one thing, if you're like me, I like to see things in a graduation of color. So when I see a palette kind of like this, that is laid out a little more kind of in the gradation of colors as you go across, this is how my brain functions. However, for some odd reason in the makeup world, most eyeshadow palette creators choose to do something like this. And they just sprinkle in all of the colors, they mix them all up, and then you look at this and you go, how on earth do I choose what should go together? So that is what I'm gonna help you do today. So first things first, for me personally, I prefer to have a matte brow bone highlight color, a matte crease color or two, a matte dark shade in the outer corner, and then a shimmery shade on either part of the lid or the whole of the lid, and also inner corner highlight. Now, the lower lash line You can choose to do anything you want down there. I like to do a mix of either something that's very neutral or colorful. So keeping those finishes of shadows in mind, when I first look at a palette, I am looking first at colors and I'm thinking about the parts of the eyes where I might place those shadows. So I always start off with the brow bone because that's the easiest. And so here we have a couple of shadows that look light. However, when swatched, and this is where it's really important when you do this, you want to make sure your hands are completely clean because you don't want to contaminate your eyeshadow colors. So you are going to now take your finger and go into that eyeshadow and go, oh, that one is matte. These two, however, have lots of shimmer and are metallic. So for me personally, I am going to put this one, I'm going to say, okay, this is my brow bone highlight. These two shades right here are going to make great inner corner highlight shades or lid shades. Next, I look at the palette and I say, okay, I've got the brow bone covered, I've got the inner corner highlight covered. What would I put in the crease? This is where I'm going to look for a shade that is matte, but not too dark. So I am not going to be looking at this shade as a crease color. This is going to be an outer corner color for sure. So crease possibilities would be these right here. These are both matte. This one, and then to deepen the crease, then I would go kind of that next level darker. So for my big old fluffy brush, I'm going to be looking at one of these colors typically for the crease. Then to darken the outer corner, that's where I'm going to go further down in the palette, and here we have these darker shades that are, this one's not matte, but this one, darker shades that are matte, so here, even here, and then this one for your outer corner. For the lid shade, that is where I'm going to start looking at all of these beautiful shimmer colors and go, okay, we've got shimmer shades, that's what I'm going to put on the lid. Because this is more of a neutral palette, I am now going to go to this very colorful palette to help you better understand how in the world you make sense of this palette. Just like I did in the previous one, I'm going to look at these light shades here and determine what would work best for a brow bone highlight color. Now, for me, this palette actually does not have a matte light shade. It does have this shade, and this one is a little dark to be a highlight color, but it does work through the top of the crease. But these all have a little bit of shimmer, so you can use one of these lightly or just pull in a brow bone highlight color from another palette. But, however, I did look at these shades because these make perfect inner corner highlight or lid shades. Okay, then I'm gonna look through and I'm gonna see what crease colors, what possible crease colors I might have in this palette. Now, obviously, there are some colorful shades in here, which don't disregard those as possible crease shades. So this yellow, the pink, we've got this brown, and this green has just a tiny little bit of a satin finish, but it could also work in the crease if you really wanted a colorful look. Okay, then we've got our deeper shades. We've got a matte black, we've got a matte dark brown, and then we've got a couple shades here and here that have a little bit of shimmer, but those could also work in the outer corner. And then we've got some fun pops of shimmer shades that you can use on the lid. So how do we determine what goes with what? Well, you can, in a very artistic look, pretty much put any of these colors together, but that can look very clown-like if you're not careful. But if you're trying to put a combination of colors together that somehow just mysteriously work together, you want to look at the undertone of the shadows. So if you can't look at this and automatically determine what's warm, pull out either a shirt or a piece of paper. I've got a piece of paper right here. This is a very cool tone, purpley blue color, okay? And so if we put this up along that first row, you can see the colors that just seem to really complement this color, and those are this turquoise here, the white, and the green. Also, this dark shade right here, you can see that it pulls a little bit more gray. Now these two shades, while it's not that they don't work, they definitely stand out more from the color of this paper. If we go down to the second row, okay, so you've got your black and you've got these three shades right here. You can see it just seems like they all complement each other. Now the pink and that coppery shade, because they have more warmth, they really stand out from this color. Then going down to this bottom row, you can kind of see even more. So really on this bottom row, this dark brown kind of blends a little better than this one does. And then this one, obviously, there's a lot more complementary colors there. And then this shade right here, this more champagne color, it's not that it doesn't look good, but it definitely contrasts more than this one. And this one has more pink undertones, cooler undertones. So it works better with other cooler undertone shades. Now, conversely, if you pull in a yellow piece of paper, let's do the same exercise, and it should pretty much give you the opposite results. There are a couple shades that will work with both and complement both, but you can see, I mean, obviously this turquoise has a little bit of warm colors to it, but it still stands out pretty sharply. And this brown right here is very dark and sharp compared to this. Now these shades look a lot better close to that. And even that green shade, because green has yellow in it, it's going to work with both. But next row, you can see how sharp of a contrast that black is. However, these two shades, they just seem to complement the yellow. And then these three shades right here, you can see there's just quite an opposite color combination going on there. Now, the bottom row, obviously the yellow looks pretty good with yellow. It's kind of a slightly different shade, but still works. And that purple, even though it's a pretty deep contrast, it has warmth to it, and so it works well with the yellow. Same with that. Now this shade is a little cool, so a little bit more of a contrast than this one, but still works. This one, pretty big contrast. This one, not so bad. So once you've identified kind of the warm and the cool tones, then you can start putting your eye look together. So you can start choosing your brow bone color, you can start choosing your crease color, your outer corner color, your shimmer shade on the lid. And what I like to do is I like to use the back of my hand first to do that, because there's nothing worse than starting to blend out all these eyeshadows and you get done and your eyeshadow look looks very muddy and gross and you have to start all over. So I just love to swatch several colors that I think might work well together on the back of my hand, and that is also going to help you see how those colors look with your skin tone, your undertone, and then I like to apply them to the eyes. So for today's look, I started off with a little bit of this in the top of the crease. Then I worked in this pink and this really deep fuchsia color. And then in the outer corner, right here to darken up, instead of using the black, which I can wear black, but black looks more stark because of my yellow undertones to my skin. So instead of using the black, I used this dark brown and this shade right here, which has a little bit of some plum undertones. And so that's what I used to darken the outer corner. Then on the lid, because I have more warm undertones to my skin, I used this shade, which has more champagne, instead of this shade, which looks more white and is a more stark contrast. So that is how I pulled this eye look together. Now, there's one other color on the upper part of my lid that you might not have guessed that I pulled in. So taking a look, Any guesses? This color right here. Yes, so again, this is where your skin's undertone is going to determine how stark of a contrast certain colors are or appear to be on your eyes. So I used the tiniest little bit. It is a pretty bright yellow, so I mean, if I were to use it full on, you would see it even more. But I used that just to warm up the outer part of the crease ever so slightly. And because of my undertone, you really can't see yellow when you look at my eyeshadow colors. Now, on the lower lash line, I chose to work in this shadow. So on the lower lash line, I did apply an eyeliner first and topped it with that eyeshadow color down there. Now, the thing to keep in mind for your lower lash line is it's completely separate from the upper part of your eye. So those colors don't need to blend into one another, which is important because while all three of these colors can work with this, they wouldn't all look good blended into that color right here. So on the lower lash line, actually all three of these would work. Now, in order for me to make this one work, which is the one I actually chose, I did blend in a little bit of this pink shade and a little bit of yellow just to keep it a little bit warmer and make it blend a little bit better with the rest of the look. Now, for those of you who said, yeah, Sharalee, I got that down. I'm good with picking out the colors that are complementary. My problem is picking crazy shades and what goes with them best. So if you're not just using those crazy shades on your lower lash line and you want to go the next step and work them in on your upper lid, this is how I like to do it. So a couple of shades that I already know that I love how they work together, but is Copper and Plum. Okay, so let me show you these two shades here, and I'll show you how these work together. Okay, so these two shades, while this is Plum, it's got some purple, it also has some warmth to it. It has some shimmer in there, and obviously this coppery shade, rather than being really cool tone, it is a warmer tone copper. And together, those two actually look really beautiful. Now, going back to our discussion at the beginning of the video, understanding your skin's undertone is going to help you know what colors to pair with those two shades. So especially in your crease, you are going to, if you are cooler skin tone, which I am not, you would actually choose this shade right here because it has cooler gray undertones. If you are yellow undertone like me, or even neutral, you could do either one. You're gonna wanna choose the more warm tone brown through the crease. And what's gonna happen is whatever you put in the crease is going to make these tones actually work. Also, what color you choose on the inner corner. So think about when you're choosing your eyeshadow colors for the lid area, whatever you surround those colors with, those are the colors that you want to make sure work well with your skin undertone. So it's almost like you're putting a frame around your more bright colors, and that's what makes them work better. So now, if you really want to have some fun and you want to embrace these bright shades like this one or the green, I say you have to make those the star of the eye look and make everything else just really super soft and blended around it. I love the contrast of that turquoise or the green with pink. I think those colors look beautiful together, okay, those three. But in order for it not to look garish and clown-like, what you're gonna do is you want to actually really sheer out that pink color. Really sheer it out. And what I would do is I would use that pink through the crease just really lightly, and you can see it barely is there, and it complements both of those shades, and then put this, go all out, go bold, or you can just really lightly diffuse one of these colors on your lid, throw on some liner, put on an inner corner highlight, and you're good to go. Now there's tons more to say, tons more examples, but I'm gonna stop there and let you pull out your eyeshadow palettes and give it a try. Now, if you want extra references and see some other examples of some crazy color combinations that I put together, I will list down in the description box below a couple of my 3-1-1 palette of the week tutorials. One in particular is the Urban Decay Born to Run palette. That palette has a lot of crazy colors, and I used the bright turquoise in there in an unexpected way, and it just, that was my favorite look of all three. Have some fun, make sure your hands are clean, and just start swatching some of your colors in your palette side by side and see what colors complement each other and what colors appear to be a stark contrast. And if you're just starting out, stick with the color combinations that appear to complement each other, that have similar undertones. And then as you're more advanced, you'll get a little more comfortable working in one or two colors that are maybe a more contrasting color with some other complementary colors. So I hope this video was helpful for you, and it just gave you some new ideas to try with your eyeshadow palettes, and hopefully you won't feel quite as overwhelmed the next time you open up a brand new palette and go, oh my word, how do I figure out what goes together? So thank you as always for your requests. Continue to leave those in the comment section below, and I will put them on my list to do and hopefully get to them soon. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye.